They have done. So let me ask you this question.
So what have they done? Tell me.
We know what they've done. So what have
they done to move these players on?
So what they've done in January is they found a very suitable loan for Anthony, a player that people said we'd never be able to sell.
It's not a sale, Terry.
Hang on, let me finish. Yes, exactly. They found very suitable loans for players that got them back in the shop window and has got clubs interested. Now there are multiple clubs. There are multiple clubs interested in buying them. But what those clubs are doing, and I think everybody fails to miss this, is they are trying to do to Man United what they have done for the past 12 years. Is exactly what Lawless said on the 14th minute of this show, because I timestamped it on purpose, is we roll over and have our bellies rubbed. And what clubs are waiting for is for Man United to go, okay, Juve, you can have Sancho, but we'll pay half his wages. Barca, we'll drop the asking price from 40. You can have him for 20. That way you can register him and pay his salary. Batiste, you're desperate for him. Your own league was calling him the GOAT. We know you can't afford the 40 million asking price.
What's the alternative?
Well, this is my view. See, I have a solution to this. I want to know what your solution is first. So what would you do instead of trying to make a profit or trying to maximize a sale? Would you bow down and sell these players now at a loss, which is what the current purchasers are trying to do? Would you do that?
I look at those three players especially, and maybe you can remove Rashford since technically he is pure profit no matter what happens. Sancho and Anthony especially. I don't expect clubs to just come and do us a favor and be like, oh, you guys don't want to get bullied no more? No, you know what? Yeah. We'll cover the whole salary. Or I expect these players like Sancho, even though he's a dickhead, to come in and say, nah, you know what? Just for the sake of the fan base, you know what? Here you go. I don't want to have my salary. There's donations for you guys. Here you go, INEOS. Continue whatever you're doing in the summer. Start the INEOS era with no debt because I don't want my money. Players are not going to do that. You find yourself in situations with those three players at least, in a situation where, like, what is the least damage that I could take from moving these players on? I have been convinced for a minute now that we're not making any money off Sancho. This guy came out today, reported that he actually rejected 180 to 200 with Chelsea. That guy is already mental. So he's not taking that money there. You already know the only way to move him on is if a club is actually willing to get him, which is Juventus. That is the closest we got to finally someone take him. Now, can I somehow just take a minor loss rather than a major loss? Because guess what happens if you don't move him on? He stays here for the season. He will not play, and you're paying to 200K anyways. Yeah. So would I rather pay 200K for someone to play Fortnite at home, or would I rather pay 50K and just get this issue off my hands? I'd rather pay the 50K and cut my losses and move on from that toxic relationship. Okay. Same as Anthony, same as Rashford. But the club is not doing that.
Okay. So, but they're not doing it now because if you listen to the reports and read the stories, the amount that clubs are willing to offer them. So Juve's approach and offers to Sancho are growing. They've now gone up to 180 that he's rejected without a severance from us. So I get your point that you want the club to, at some point, may have to cut its losses. And I get from a financial standpoint, letting him go and still paying 50K a week is better than paying him 200K a week and getting no transfer fee. I concur with that completely. But if we would have yielded at the first offers 4 or 5 weeks ago when everybody started panicking, the loss would have been almost the same as in playing for us. They wanted us covering most of the wages. It is a risky game. I'm not going to deny that. And it could blow up in our face. But for me, it's also the longer term element here. If we become a side that is hard to negotiate with, doesn't roll over and let other men touch our belly, doesn't let people develop new shaft pipes for us, and we're hardball, one, it stops more players from taking the piss in the future. Two, and this is more short-term as well, if we let Rashford go really cheaply now, the other clubs are going to expect the same for their players. Equally, if we just turn around and pay what clubs want straight away in transfer fees, the next club we try to buy from goes, well, we know Man United are they're going to bid 40. We know they'll jump to 50, 55. They've done it on the last 2 deals. So eventually what happens? You run out of money again. So I get your point and I want the speed there. But the process, and I know everyone hates that word, that's why I'm using it, but the process around selling needs to be in place and we need to be hard-faced. We need to be difficult. And I am not adverse to us taking a financial hit in the short term to set a precedent that we will not be forced into doing what we don't want to do. In the longer term, Man United will benefit from that because we have been a laughing stock. I agree with you 100% in this transfer window for many, many a year. We are not going to fix it by doing the same thing instantly that we used to do. And there has to be a happy medium. And I agree with you. Every week now that we go further into the transfer window, that we don't get the deals we want, there's an added level of failure within that. And I agree. I've never said any different to that. And I'll call it out and ask for it to be better. But what would piss me off more is letting all those players go and barely making any money on them. That, for me, is a bigger insult to the fans of this football club than it taking an extra 2 or 3 weeks. And I can't do anything but stand on that. And again, away from the transfers, and there's a great comment here. I love this comment that says, Terry, Goldfish is rubbing off on you. Well, this is where, Maradon, you're being a bitch. Because me and Mark got, and I'll tell you why you're being a bitch, why you're being a little bitch, a catty little bitch as well, is that Mark Goldbridge is more in the camp of Staffy than me on this conversation. So you were chatting out to your butthole, young man, but nice try at the nickname there. Terry, your approach is too risky. Potentially. But again, this is when people say, I'll hold you to account, Terry. I know it's risky. And if it ends up blowing up in our face, and if in the longer term we don't get better at these deals, I will hold my hand up and say that approach didn't work and I was wrong. The difference is, I don't think the people losing their minds will. That's the difference between them and I. How do I know this? Everyone's slagging off Amorim yesterday for the Garnacho news. I've checked about 5 big accounts that were slagging him off. Not one has tweeted today since the news has come out. It's not a true story. Not one. So don't come at me about being held to account. I'm looking at the man out here calling our manager a pussyhole. They're the ones. Why are they not being called out?
Staffy, you find yourself in a situation. By the way, when I tweeted that, it wasn't even at Emery. It was at the fact that basically they're bringing a player back after the manager said that to him. These type of things lead to one or two things: either the manager getting sacked or the manager actually walking away. I think it's inevitable, by the way. All this that's happening, you got to remember that all this, with this approach and everything that you said, by the way, because of how slow this approach will be, you end up getting a manager like the one that we got, with everyone turning on him because of the season we had, and he's eventually going to fail. Because this model that we're doing, it might have gains. If it does happen, it might have gains in the latter stages, but it absolutely tanks the manager that you have right now.
It's a great point you raise, and that for me is where I would slam INEOS the most. So if they end up not being able to have a good summer because they're sticking to this approach to become more hard-faced, to get better deals in the longer term, fine. But it means you've then got to stand more by your manager. And you've got to make sure that player power doesn't exist.
And you've got even going to stand by this. He made it clear so many times last season.
He might go, right? If he walks away, then he walks away. Again, like I've said, I'll condemn them for doing a bad job. The manager then goes, I ain't staying for this. Fair play. But if he stays, they can't take it out on him. That is where I would go at INEOS. But let me ask you a question, because I saw your tweet the other day about 100% the club's written off. How, and I'll make sure I word this in this question in the right way. How badly, if at all, do you think this horrendous window, as you've called it, will set back our season in reflection of league position? Right now, how bad is that season going to be based on us having a horrendous summer, Staffy?
I already thought that we were mid-table even if we got Mbeumo early. So that actually this is actually worse, because I thought we were mid-table even with Mbeumo coming in about 30 days ago. I think we're about to have a horrendous season. And you know what it is? Even if, just pretend that I'm a waffler, because everyone likes to say I'm waffling. No one ever tells me why I'm waffling. I'm just a waffler. 3 of our last 4 seasons, we haven't been a top 6 team. That is a fact. 3 of our last 4 seasons, they gradually end up being our worst season ever. So besides that one season under Ten Hag where we finished 3rd, we finished 7th under that Ranić season, and then 8th with Ten Hag, and then 15th with what's his name, Amorim last season. So factually, if you put these numbers on a graph, it just keeps getting worse. Now, unfortunately, to my argument here, there's not a lot more worse than 15th, because now that leaves a very small gap. So I can't sit here and say, yeah, we'll get even worse, because the only thing worse than here is technically relegation, or just finishing 17th.
Yeah.
But if anyone sits here and looks at the trajectory of this team and looks at the state of this team is actually worse than the Ranić team. It's worse than the Ten Hag second-year team, and it's probably just as bad as last year as it stands. We are heading toward another season where there's no reason why I can predict anything that's more than mid-table. It's going to rely on the teams around us, how much team around us invest, who strengthens, who gets worse. But this team as it stands right now, and the way the manager ended the season, there's no way I can predict anything outside of mid-table.
And I give you a lot of respect for your prediction there, because a lot of people that I've had conversations with that say it's horrendous, we're going to have a terrible season. You said, well, quantify that. They don't want to give a straight answer. So I've got a lot of respect for you for saying that there.
We're mid-table. With Kunan and Buemo,
I
I think we're a fancier mid-table team. That's the difference. And I've been saying it for weeks now. And I have no problem putting my opinion out there. Because if I'm wrong, guess what? It means United did well. And I don't give a fuck if I was wrong if United are doing well. But with Kunan and Buemo, we are generally just a better mid-table team. We're a mid-table team that will score more goals than 38 goals last season. That's it.
Yeah. I hear you on that, mate. And look, I'll just reiterate by saying at the end, I'm going to be critical of aspects of this summer, and I have been, and I will continue to be, and people have heard it on this show. I'll continue to do it where necessary, but I'll also give credit where credit is due as well if I see positive steps are being taken. And a lot of what we're doing practice-wise is what I've been asking for. So the biggest hypocritical move for me would be to suddenly kicking off about what I've been asking for, because I do think in the long term it could yield dividends, but we will see. Before we go any further, though, I've got a couple of things, because Staffy also put in another complaint to HR that he doesn't get enough flowers on the football terrace. He doesn't get enough credit. So these are inaugural.
Can you actually tell them that there's no HR on the terrace?
Yeah, there's no real HR. So we've got a couple of things for Staffy. Staffy today has been awarded a certificate of achievement to Staffy TV for the Give Me My Flowers Championship 2025. Okay, this is in recognition, okay, for your talent, your dedication, and your outstanding performance that have emerged in recent times. So a massive congratulations to you, Staffy. You've won the first ever certificate of achievement for Give Me My Flowers on the football terrace. Plus, this is a double. Round of applause first. Round of applause. Okay.
Well done, Staffy. Well done.
Plus what we have done. Okay. There is another one here where Staffy, okay, certificate of induction, gaining the first member of the TFF, okay, the Terry Flewis Foundation Standards FC Hall of Fame for 2025. So, Staffy, I wanted to give you your flowers for all the things you've been right about. And listen, on a real level, I really like the challenge today. And I will say this: I get some people that go online and go, "I'm gonna slag Terry off because he says he likes being challenged." Now, this was a respectful challenge that wasn't personal, where we both listened to each other and understood each other. But all jokes aside,
give a speech,
there's your flowers. Yes, you can give a speech.
Give a speech. Listen, very emotional moment for me. I worked my whole life for this. Shout out to everyone who supported me along with this journey. All my friends, all my family, every YouTube content creator, every person in the chat. I'm about to cry. I'm about to give a KD speech. Mom, you're the real MVP. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Cheers, congratulations, Staffy.
This guy is shameless.
Well done. Well done.
Me and Lawless were just there, just letting you lot have your therapy session, bro.
You need to print it and frame it. I want to see that on your wall, Staffy.
Can you actually send it to me? Well, I'll print it and I'll put it here behind me.
I will send them both to you in 4K. In 4K, I'll send them, bruv. I'll send them across. Listen, I want to thank, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, that is how you have a conversation and a debate without being nasty, without being rude, constructive. Some people agree with Staffy, some people agree with me. Unless people get nasty about the platform or personal, there's no echo chambers here. Listen,